All right, everybody. I'm going to need a sound check. My apologies. Traveling and don't have all my equipment with me. So this is like AMA 2017 right now. 18 maybe. I don't know. We got a better mic though. I hope. I need a sound check. Let me know if you can hear me or not. Don't have a tripod. Don't have my normal mic. Don't have the normal camera. Trying to go between camera and laptop right here. It is what it is. But yeah, let me get a sound check first. I can't hear you, whatever. I mean, if you can't hear me, I guess you can't hear me. Sound okay? Okay. Is okay like echoey okay? Bad okay? I can hear you, but it sounds like you're 6 feet below water in a submarine, or sounds good. Okay, cool. So sorry for being a bit late here. Like I said, traveling. I'm a bit tired. 20 hours worth of travel to get somewhere that should have took like 8. But I got a lot of updates, and we're just going to dive right in. So just XCM, perfect. Amazing. I love that 5 to 9 cent sound. So that's the perfect range, at least right now. Later, it's going to go higher. Okay, cool. So I got a lot of updates, but I got to position myself here because, like I said, traveling, a little frazzled. I don't know if you can see this. Do you see this right here? Look at this. This is not on the agenda, by the way, but this right here. So I traveled through Istanbul Airport. I don't know if anybody's been through Istanbul Airport. One of the nicer airports in the world. One of the biggest travel hubs. You can fly pretty much anywhere. And so I was flying through Istanbul. And the one thing I like about Istanbul Airport is I get my nose and my ears waxed. Maybe too much truth there. I don't know. Anyway, I was getting the nose waxed, and the lady dropped wax on the mustache. Now, I couldn't see this, obviously. She's like, oh, and started picking at it. I think the pain was worse than childbirth. I'm just going to say it is. I don't know if it is or not, but that hurt. It hurt. It hurt way worse than anything else. That's for sure. And now I got a bald spot in my mustache. So, you know, my Yelp review is going to be really, really bad, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Here we go. Okay, so let's jump into it. I'm going to take a few questions, then I'm going to jump into some updates. But I'm going to take the questions first because I got to configure a few things on my end, and hopefully I can do it while I'm taking questions. Here we go. Okay, so will USD withdrawals be back online before the end of June? Yes, it does look like they will be. So lots of news on USD, actually. So let's see. One of the third-party providers that we initially set up for Swift deposit and withdrawal, and then literally within like a week and a half decided that they no longer could support, or their bank pulled out, or whatever happened. They couldn't support us anymore. They now have a new bank. API hasn't changed, so we're going to be sandboxing that bad boy, I think, next week. And we may even get that online by mid-June, which would be deposits and withdrawals USD Swift. We also got a pre-approval for accounts at a U.S. bank based out of the state of Texas. A large bank in terms of let's say, a state bank. We're talking about 2-3 billion under AUM, so not a small bank. Maybe at the federal level, not the largest, but still a good partner. We got the pre-approval, waiting for the final approval. I think next week we should have those accounts. If we get the accounts next week, then that'll also open up the door for FedWire, Domestic Wire, and ACH. ACH will take a bit longer because they don't have automation on their side, so they figure out how we're going to do that. But we should have FedWire and Domestic Wire withdraw and deposit, or I should say deposit and withdrawal, potentially by mid to end of June as well. What's going on there? But thanks, Brad, for the question. And yeah, some good news on that's one of my updates. So I already gave it. So there's a little bit of the cat out of the bag. Did the PRQ listings spook you? Are you hopeful for React? 10 million market cap for a project like that seems ridiculously undervalued. Thoughts, or am I delusional at this point? Hey, Duncan. So, you know, I think from a project standpoint, what they're doing, the business they have behind that quote unquote project, and the need for something like that in this industry, being able to read the mempool, being able to have if this then that type kind of services on chain. I think, as I said a million times, to me, almost every project needs that. Almost every business on chain will need that, especially as you get more banks and more financial institutions, companies accepting payments, etc. That's a thing. Off the top of my head, something that they may have done wrong is issue too many tokens. People are confused. PRQ, PRQB. I don't even remember the other one at this point, but there was another one. And now React. And so I think a lot of their supporters are confused, and definitely anybody coming into the market is confused. And so that may be an additional burden on top of the token right now. But if you look at the market, to be honest, other than Bitcoin, even most of the majors aren't anywhere near their all-time highs. XRP did pop up there for a bit, but most of the majors aren't at their all-time highs either. And when it comes to altcoins, we really haven't started to see that altcoin season. Well, we're starting to see a little glimpse of that right now as Bitcoin hovers in a range close to all-time high and Bitcoin dominance starts to drop. Normally that means money flows back into Ethereum, but Ethereum needs to see, well, at least historically, higher prices for alts to see higher prices across all chains, not just Ethereum. You had Solana taking a lot of the, I guess, just a lot of the funds, the capital flowing into crypto, especially on the retail side through meme coins, et cetera. Obviously, that's not happening right now. And there isn't really another chain right now that's growing as quickly as, say, Solana did throughout the meme coin bonanza, or Ethereum throughout the ICO bonanza. So Ethereum, I've seen a few reports that analysts think that Ethereum is going to outpace Solana this cycle. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. There's still institutional plays on Ethereum, much more so than on Solana. And if Solana can't pick up, another wind behind its tail, so to speak, when it comes to, well, that's probably not going to be meme coins, but something like that, then Ethereum is probably going to outpace. So anyway, all that to say that React still sits on top of a really good business idea, and a needed service within the industry. I think people, aside from, again, alt season hasn't really kicked in. There's now 35 million alts or something like that. Imagine trying to pick one. And their own community, I think, just a bit frazzled and confused about all the changes over the years. Hello, thank you for your work. Thank you. Lily, longtime supporter of CM. A few years back, you offered the possibility to buy bonds and then exchange those bonds from a shareholder. CM didn't tell. You actually needed 5 bonds to qualify. I only had 4 bonds, so instead of becoming a shareholder, I received XCM from my bonds. I've reached out to support several times since to know if there was any way for me to become a shareholder or buy bonds back, or buy some bonds, or buy back some bonds in Ignium. I was told, this is a long one, I was told not possible, asking you if there's any way to become a shareholder, small budget now. Okay, so just to go back to the beginning, when we did the initial offering, see, the way that ownership works, or when you're a shareholder in Estonia, is that you don't own shares, you own a percentage of share capital. And that percentage of share capital is basically devised by the share, or the capital that the company has on hand, and the share premium, i.e. the valuation. So when we did the bonds back in the day, the valuation was lower than our last printed round. By the time we did the conversion, the printed valuation was higher. And thus, in order to get the smallest share capital, which is 1 cent, 1 cent of, I believe the share capital on Coinmetro Group is 10,000 euro. So 1 cent of 10,000 euro at a 180 million valuation was higher than it was at a 60 million valuation, 3 times as high. And so when we ran the bonds, obviously we didn't think about this. When we ran the bonds, you could get converted for any amount of bonds. But once the conversion happens, that changed. So to answer your question, we are doing a bit of a discounted round right now. We actually got the first ticket in. Well, we're waiting for the ticket to land, but we actually got, let's say, the first deal over the line just earlier this week. And so with that discounted valuation, you probably should be able to convert into equity now. If you can DM me or on Telegram at Kevin Murcko, make sure it's me, KevinMurcko. I will double back on this tomorrow with the team to see what's possible. But I appreciate you reaching out, and thanks for being a longtime supporter and asking a question on the AMA. Duncan, when will Bitcoin dominance reverse? This will be the most protracted bear market in crypto history. Well, dominance is already starting to fall. Right now, there's so much institutional and sovereign support for Bitcoin right now. It's not like it used to be for that switch to happen, meaning there has to be a massive, in comparison to years past, amount of capital flowing into alts, Ethereum, etc., for that shift really to take place. Plus, we're not seeing right now a lot of fever or frenzy around any specific themes like we saw with meme coins, etc. If we were seeing that, then I think you would already see dominance start to fade a little bit. Though again, we are seeing it. It's happening now. It's been happening over the past couple weeks. So we'll have to see. We'll have to keep monitoring Bitcoin dominance. But for right now, it does seem like it's starting to fade. If you look at previous 4-year cycles, again, I think this is the last quasi 4-year cycle. I don't think these are going to repeat again, but I think we're in the tail end of like the last one. And if you look at previous cycles, Q3, which we're sitting in, which, well, we're about to sit in. So Q2, Q3 really are generally low, the low. You don't really see, now Bitcoin isn't in a low, right? So that's the one difference, but that difference makes sense given the fact that Bitcoin's in the news all the time now, whether it be out of the Trump administration, out of the US, whether it be Michael Saylor, whether it be countries and states and provinces, etc., and companies all having Bitcoin treasuries and talking about it publicly. We never saw that before. So if you remove that from the equation, the market kind of looks like you would almost expect the market to look in a Q2, Q3. Difference being is that we would have expected probably a more active Q1 on the alt side. But we are seeing Bitcoin dominance start to flutter, so we'll have to keep our eye on it. All right, there we go. Hey, Bobby, how are you? Hey, Jack. So how's biz development? How's biz dev development? In conjunction with fundraising, so I was in LA. Someone asked about LA, so I'm going to wait till we get to that question. I noticed it pop up. So when I was in LA, I had a lot of conversations, both on the fundraising side and on the biz dev side. And I'll probably be back in LA again, first or second week, I believe, of June for fundraising and also biz dev talks. So right now, forefront for us is, well, getting that tech debt out of the way, focusing on with our new renewed dev team and delivery out of our dev team right now. I think you guys can probably tell even on the outside is phenomenal. We are on track. Problems come in, they're fixed quickly. Releases are happening on time. And we're now able to schedule much better than we ever have in the past. And so because of that, that's going to open the door to biz dev sooner than we would have thought. But still, fundraising and kind of increasing the active users and overall AUM on the exchange is a focal point. Active users, obviously, well, because we make money on them, in AUM, because, well, AUM means many times, not all the time, but most AUM is going to sit in some type of passive income generation vehicle like staking, etc. So getting more AUM also means more revenue. So right now we're ultra focused on that. We are making some moves in the background to make sure that we are as close as we can be to break even right now, even though there's a bit of a lull even in our revenues, let's say, since, or at least the revenues we've seen since the end of last year. And so we're working on that. We roadmapped, I guess, or estimated that we would be in profitability towards the end of Q3 and Q4, and it looks like we're going to hit that marker. And so doing that will mean more biz dev. But I'm having conversations about payments, conversations about building out products, some retail offerings for some institutional offerings that have to do with lending and borrowing, banking, etc. So there's a lot of biz dev conversations, some of which are more internalized, meaning you guys won't really see them, but you'll maybe feel them in the way that the system operates and your ability to deposit, withdraw, move funds around, etc. But you'll be able to see them more going into the end of Q3, Q4. Hey, Kevo, what about vector space? Yeah, we will support the swap. Actually, I have some news about that as well, if you will bear with me. Let me see if I can actually pull up my cheat sheet in this ridiculous setup I'm working with right now. I hope the mic is at least good. It's the same mic I use for videos, so I think the mic is good. But anyway, I don't even want to explain. It's not the most professional setup right now, but you make do with what you have. I guess the good news is we're together and we're here to chat. That's what counts. Okay, so let me try to get up my little cheat sheet here, and I can definitely answer that question. even potentially even with a timeline. Wow, mind blown. I know. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Give me a second. I'm scrolling. Opening another link. I will also be scrolling on that link. That is not the right link. It's like, I feel like I'm giving a play-by-play for just a really bad presentation. Where I was just looking at this. Oh, we're gonna have to take another question, then I'll come back to it. All right, here we go. So so when it comes to render, there's a bit of a delay. We thought we were gonna have render out the door already, but Fireblocks, who we use for custody, and we're custodying render on Solana, we had to ask them to basically institute something on their side so that we could actually whitelist addresses, etc. And it took a bit longer because we thought we were going to be able to do it on our side, and in the end we couldn't. So it's delayed a bit, but that's probably going to be next week. Rio and VXV both scheduled for next week. So there you go. And that means the switch over to whatever the rebrand. Everybody's rebranding nowadays. I'm just going to start calling myself like Charles. You know, why not? Maybe the price will go up. Charles might not be the best. Maybe Satoshi. Maybe that's a better name. Apparently. So yeah, anyway, that is that is to answer your question in terms of VXV. So moving on, I got more updates, like I said, but I'm going to get through some of these questions first. We'll jump in updates. Where are we with the missing staking rewards bug that was supposed to be fixed in Q1? Hey, Bacon Eyes. I don't have a direct answer for you on that question. What I can say is that I know we had 600 tickets in Jira. We just went through and I didn't do it. I shouldn't say we. This is a very colloquial we. But one of our project managers inside of our tech team went through with the help of our CRO, with our delivery manager in tech, and probably other people as well, and refined the way that we submit, action, and handle tickets internally using Jira. We had 600 Jira tickets. That was compressed down to 300. Some of those had been there for years and we hadn't even no information on them, so they were just sitting there kind of clogging up the pipeline without a lot of documentation. Got that down to 300. There's only 100 left now. And of that 100, I believe I remember 60 are currently in progress. So if there's a ticket open, which I imagine there is, it's in progress and it is close to getting looked at. That is from a high level. I'd say it's close. DM me on Telegram and I'll get you a better estimate tomorrow as I have a one-on-one with our delivery manager in tech, and I can ask and get you some specific information. So yeah, we wanted to do it in May, Jack, but with me traveling, it became a bit difficult. Plus, we had a few things that came up that we had to deal with in terms of, let's say, the executive team, and that kind of sidetracked us a little bit on getting those slides ready. But I think we'll get it over the line in June. Absolutely, yes, and hopefully right around the same time that we're getting USD back online and a few other amazing updates so that we have more to share. So there we go. Here's the LA question. So we were able to get our first ticket over the line. Funds should be arriving tomorrow or early next week. It's a six-figure sum, high fixed six-figure sum, but it comes along with some requirements, some of which we are already putting in place, and others that we will be putting in place over the next couple of weeks. And that ticket is potentially a much larger ticket into the 7 digits, into the maybe even mid 7 digits. As long as we hit these milestones, which we are going to put all effort behind to make sure we hit. So first ticket's in. It's the first ticket that we actually got since we started fundraising. So can applaud that one, I believe. Also got another 7-figure sum that I'm working on right now. It's going to be a bit of a unique offering, I believe. And also when I fly back to LA, I'll be meeting with a few other investors. There are also had talks about kind of the full ticket we're looking to raise, but also some contingencies there, and requires a bit more time to go back and forth to make sure that I believe we can meet those contingencies, so that we're not accepting money from a shareholder that, well, is going to be upset. And so lots of movement there, lots of conversations, and there's going to be a lot more. But, well, as they say, the first one's always the most difficult. The first one is on its way and should be in the bank momentarily. Hi, Kevin. What is the next product release that will make a jump in volumes, and when do you aim it to be released? of course, accept the nice snowball already rolling. I guess the next product release that we expect to jump in volumes is probably DCA. Now that Apple Pay and Google Pay out, that opens up the door for DCA. That also opens up the door for subscriptions. And I think those two combined will lead to a nice jump. But USD is also right there, because obviously we lost a good amount of our client base when we weren't able to support USD. Now we are on the deposit side, obviously, with Apple and Google Pay, nice and easy, few clicks. But wires, domestic wires, and ACH are coming. Once that happens, now DCA obviously is going to be tied mostly to cards. So DCA will hopefully, and I believe more than likely, light up a good percentage of those clients that kind of went idle because they weren't able to deposit funds with us. Once we get Swift USD initially, and then Fedwire and domestic wire, that'll light up a good percentage of the rest of those clients. So USD is going to be the quickest. DCA and then subscription plans, I think, are probably the top three. How far are we from the new Mars? Good question. This is one of those, well, not directly, but indirectly, one of those things we need to hit in order to finalize our round. It's also very important to Coinmetro in general, because it's going to allow us to put a bit more effort into building out our XCM treasury, and also for you guys, because it's going to give you access to a lot of different rewards that you currently don't have access to. And so it was originally obvious. I keep saying obviously. I don't know if you've watched long enough. I usually play this game where there's a word I'll say way too much, and I'll just try to get it out of my vocabulary. And then, if I say it, I don't know, I got to put an XCM in a jar. I don't know if we ever did that, but obviously is in the jar, is in that game now. I can't say obviously anymore. From now on, after I explained it, no more obviously. Here we go. Except for that one. Explaining it once again for whatever reason. Here we go. So, new Mars. I would like to see new Mars out within Q3. Q3, Q4, by the end of the year, it definitely has to be out. I would like to see it in Q3. And with the way the dev team is moving, I think that's probably possible. All right, all my sound checks. Amazing. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. Nice to see you, Alexander. Just good news from my side today. Deposits and withdrawals in Euro lightning fast. I really do appreciate the seamless experience. Well, thank you, Alexander. We do a lot of things really good. Having said that, there's things that historically we haven't been very good at. What I love to see and love to tell you guys is there are definitely things we were not good at that we are good at now. It takes a bit of time to right the wrongs of the past, but with the team we have currently in place, and I'm talking not entirely at any stretch of the imagination, but I'm talking about specifically tech and product, and that crossroad between tech and product. Never seen it as smooth as it is today, except maybe when there was, two people back in the day of the ICO. Smooth because, well, you weren't going to have a communication problem. Doesn't mean we delivered as fast, but yeah, it's something that I've never seen at Coinmetro. It's really great to see. Obviously, we all know we have the best support in the industry. We're actually bringing back an old tool that we used to use, which now has some really cool AI features. I know I famously said I don't want to use AI in customer support, but it's gotten to the point now where, especially for certain queries, it can make our support even better. That doesn't mean we're getting rid of humans. I don't think we ever will. But yeah, anyway, there's lots of good, and lots of good that's never. We've always tried to get there. We've always tried to do that get that next step, try to do that next best thing, and we've always been hindered for some reason. And it's really great to actually see those things come together. I've been a client ICO investor. Please give me some Hopium for ETH and React. I love you. Have a great day. A nostalgic motion. All right. Well, ETH. I think I gave a bit of Hopium already for ETH. I own a bit of ETH, so I'm in the same boat. Some of that ETH is dollar cost average. Some is a little bit underwater, maybe. Having said that, I do think Ethereum will outpace Solana. I don't see a lot of thematic boom right now behind Solana. Memes are kind of not doing much right now. Ethereum still has a lot of institutional play, a lot of institutional money, bonds and banks, etc., pushing things on the Ethereum blockchain. That hasn't changed. Obviously, you have ETFs now, et cetera, which we haven't seen a lot of impact on ETH price as of yet. But I do think Ethereum is Ethereum, just like Bitcoin is Bitcoin in that sense. When it comes to programmatic money, Ethereum was the first. It's got a lot of adoption. It needs to play a lot of catch up with Bitcoin, but in the end of the day, the fact that it might not have the same price ratio as it always has, probably doesn't mean much. Bitcoin maybe goes to 10 million and Ethereum is at 20K. Is that going to upset anybody? If you look at the supposed use cases that most people place around Bitcoin as a store of value, store of wealth, it's going on it's going in treasuries, it's going on balance sheets. We're not going to see that with Ethereum. At least I don't think so. Why? Well, it's really there, again, to be the rails for programmatic money. And as I said a million times, if you're a layer one, you need to find a niche. That's a big niche, programmatic money. That's maybe even too big. So with the amount of transaction speed that it has, the velocity, et cetera, that their layer one has, and their layer twos, and et cetera, what problem can they solve better than everyone else? And they need to kind of focus there. We need to get them, dApps need to start being refocused on, et cetera. Anyway, I think ETH has a bit of legs in it. And I think it will start to catch up once we see capital flow back into alts and out of Bitcoin, which again, historically speaking, looks like it might have already started happening. With React, already talked about them as well. It's a company doing stuff and making things that are beneficial to almost anyone that's interacting on a layer one or a layer two, or doing anything that involves moving value on chain. They did a good job of this if this then that type setup, where it's somewhat easy to understand, but at the same time, it's not something that everyone's going to easily understand. Most people won't even know they need to look for it. This is one of those things where, there are products that once you find them, you're like, oh, this is amazing. I can't believe I lived without this before. But before you had it, you didn't know you needed it. This is one of those things. And so I think it's on them a little bit to teach people about their product. Maybe they want let's say a dumber version that can go more broadly for mom and pop type businesses, et cetera, that may utilize these type of services, getting into Web3, et cetera. Maybe they want to focus on dev houses that are building Web3 to say, hey, look, we have solutions for this, that, and the other. Maybe they want to focus on consultants that are consulting in Web3. Your big four and all these guys say, look, when you're consulting, this is what we can do. This is what we can help with your clients. You can upsell, et cetera, et cetera. So I think at the end of the day, they're a good company. They're making revenue. If they continue to make revenue and they're growing the company, the token at some point should follow, right? Tokenomics are pretty sound. I'm sure they'll get better over time as well. But it's a long-term play. Funny, in crypto, the crazy, useless, but frenzied tokens are short-term plays that go very well. And then, of course, if you cash out, and if you don't, you end up with nothing. We all see this guy. Has nothing to do with frenzied coins, but you look at the guy on Twitter there who's longed Bitcoin, made 80 million and then lost it all in 5 days. The frenzy things make everything else look slow. But in the long run, you need solid companies, solid businesses that will grow over time in your portfolio. You need that. You can't just rely on, oh, maybe I'll throw a dart at a dartboard, because it used to be if there was 10,000 tokens, 1,000 tokens, 3,000 tokens, you could dartboard it. Plus, they all went up anyway. There was so much liquidity coming out of Bitcoin that everything went up. That is not the case anymore. So long-term plays are needed. When decent MMs on React? Let me see if I got something about that in the good old cheat sheet. Because I know when it comes to market makers in general, for example, the market maker that we have for XCM, for example, ran into an issue with some arbitraging between the different pairs, the euro pair, dollar pair, USDT pair, and rebalancing as well, because they have obviously funds on account that we put there, and then they need to rebalance, because if, let's say, there's a lot of buying, or they're on the buy side a lot on the euro book, they may deplete their euro balance, but they will have a higher XCM balance, which they can then repatriate over to another account they're using, say, to market make the USDT pair, where maybe there's sell pressure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they were having a bit of trouble with the arbitrage and rebalancing. The arbitrage, I believe they now have a fixed solution. We talked about it on the call over the past few days, and I was at least on one of those calls. I was probably not on all of them. And so our team has been able to triage that, and now we're just waiting for them for a tech change when it comes to that rebalancing. So well, that's going to happen within maybe even tomorrow, if not next week. We do have a liquidity aggregator we went finally live with, which connects us to a bunch of top tier liquidity platforms and then improves execution because we're aggregating at top of book, which means you'll get the best price all the time from all those different liquidity providers, some of which we've been working with for years, but we only have kind of one active at any one time at any specific tier within the book. We also have another market maker, or actually liquidity provider as well, live on some, let's call them test tokens. We'll start to integrate that across the board. That's probably who's going to give liquidity on React. And so we're going to be adding tokens kind of on a week by week basis. DM me as well, Duncan, on that. I'll try to get you a more specific time frame on React specifically. Coinmetro, the best trading platform. Of course it is, but thanks for saying it. If you guys are hitting the thumbs up, confetti, whatever's good where you're watching this, just click on it, man. Go crazy. Are you ready for this bull run? Any advice? You are the expert. Yeah, I think as we move forward here, I talked about this way back in 2017, 18, 19, 20. Eventually, when we get enough liquidity flowing into this market, we're not going to see the bull run, the bull market, bear market that we saw in the past. That's part of the 4-year cycle as well. With Bitcoin, we're going to see a much duller market at some point because there's going to be so much capital inflow and outflow. Outflow not be, of course, most Michael Saylor's never going to sell his coins. So, just realize that. Just put that into your calendar. It's never going to happen. But other institutions will. Other people with Bitcoin in the treasury will. They will be coming in and out all the time. ETFs will be coming in and out all the time based on retail flow, et cetera. So when that happens, Bitcoin becomes duller. And when Bitcoin becomes duller, the altcoin market either becomes its own thing, which is good and bad, maybe bad in the short term, good in the long term, or the altcoin market, most of it dies. And what stays around is what has tokenomics, platform, utility, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to need to drive value somewhere. And, some picture of a ape on blockchain is probably not going to do it. Of course, there's utility there. You can go to the crazy ape blockchain, board ape, whatever it is, yacht party. So that's fun. But, not a lot of utility there. So all that to say, that's another thing I said twice now. I'll have to get that, put that one in the pot as well. That I don't know if we're going to see, quote unquote, the bull run. I do think, as I said, we are seeing Bitcoin dominance drop. I believe that coming into the Q3 and towards the end of Q3 and into Q4, we are going to see a lot of the market move upwards. Not the 35 million assets that exist, not a lot of the meme tokens that popped and then died. Those are probably dead and dead forever. There may be a few with following, et cetera, that will regain a bit of that momentum, especially if they're able to, around their community, drive utility or have some other type of use that will drive value to that token. But your oldies but goodies, your tokenomic heroes, so to speak, I believe will start to pick up speed and steam. I think even institutional money inside of crypto at first, not necessarily outside, but say your VC money, your hedge fund money, that generally invest in crypto, you're going to see recycle back into, some of the oldies but goodies, and mostly infrastructure. And infrastructure includes exchange tokens and platform tokens, et cetera. Why? Again, those tokenomics mean that if the business grows, the token grows. And that's, I don't mean to toot our own horn here, but that's XCM in as well. So, I wouldn't expect the, waters raise all ships type of bull run. There's too many ships and not enough water for that to happen. Do you know what happens at Thought AI? I got an update at Thought AI. I've gotten I know they have a community manager. I guess you guys know that as well, right? You see him on X, which is great. I'm glad they finally got somebody talking about Thought AI that isn't the CTO. So that's cool. They did an AMA. They talked a little bit about Project X and this cool thing that's happening. I know they have some advancements with their contracts with was it Navy, I believe, or Air Force? I don't remember. Stage 2 of I don't know how many stages. There's also some big news, which I haven't yet gotten the full brunt of. I did pick up a little knowledge in LA, but unfortunately I can't share it. Suffice it to say that they may have broken through and, let's say, solved the problem that other AIs have yet been able to solve. That's kind of the gist of it. And so I think that information is going to slowly leak out to the market, but I don't know exactly when. And I still own a lot of THT. So, what do you think about Hyperliquid? Well, as I said, been watching this 80 million fiasco happening kind of live on X. I was going to say Twitter. I still like to say Twitter. I don't know about you guys, man. I hate saying X because I don't know what a tweet is called. If it's still a tweet, why is the platform called X? And if it's not called a tweet, what is it? An X? Do you X on X? Gives me like brain fog. I don't know. Things like Hyperliquid have their time and place. And I say time because I think it's generally short-lived unless they take a hard pivot. I would compare it maybe to like a BitMEX, right? When leverage first came on the scene, BitMEX exploded. And then whether it was regulatory or whether it was people just finding other places to go, et cetera, BitMEX isn't the BitMEX it used to be. NFT platforms, same thing. Kind of, it kind of came in and went. Right now, Hyperliquid kind of came. I guess they came at the right time, but I don't see a massive future. Well, I see a massive short-term future. I guess we'll put it that way. Yeah, massive short-term future. I guess is meme coins. I mean, if you ask somebody who was in meme coins months ago, they tell you that they think meme coins aren't going anywhere and that the volumes are too big, etc. And here we are. How are you going to spend this mid-7-figure ticket if it comes through? That's an ongoing discussion currently internally, but mainly we're going to make sure that we're focused on client acquisition. So because our burn rate is significantly lower than it used to be in terms of our net burn, and we expect to be profitable by the end of the year, a lot of that money is going to go into client acquisition. We want to be very strict with our budgeting. We don't want to grow our budget before we hit certain metrics. And that's going to be something that's going to be a bit new and painful internally, but that's what we're looking to do. And then there is some regulatory stuff and some other kind of growth-related things that we're going to be doing in the background. But the majority, aside from, say, just our basic running costs, and those running costs increase even if we don't increase them because, bank fees, et cetera, as we grow, those get bigger, but it's a small percentage, say, of the potential revenue on the other side. But yeah, client acquisition, growth. Appreciate that. Okay, my laptop battery is going to die here shortly, so I'm going to run into my update real quick, and then I'm going to get to this one. Okay, so let's see what we got in there. So, gift frenzy campaign. We're about to burn, very close to burn another 10,000 XCM, which is really cool. I've been watching a little bit. I'm trying to bring it up here so I can see because I saw a few that I thought were really cool, and I wanted to bring some attention to them. So here we go. So I'm looking at this, and my laptop died. Can't get much better on timing. Oh, wait, it's giving me okay, so there's Hodl Strong, dude with a little necklace. I thought that one was really cool. I see this LFG with the little, I think it's a fox or something. I don't know what that is, but that's pretty cool, little dancing fox. When I see XCM pumping is a great one. Buy XCM is a classic. Been seeing that one. Seeing XCM 100X overnight with the Friday scene. Also great. Me running to buy more XCM when it's under $1, also awesome, or euro, sorry. There's so many awesome entries, it's hard to kind of jumble them. I see a lot of the sensible chuckle. Thanks, Lex. I always love a sensible chuckle. Rocket ship is also amazing. Pump it bicycle wheel. Anyway, I don't want to put light on. I put light on all of them. Actually, they're all pretty cool. And if you've been here a long time, you know I was never a meme person. I said, please no memes, and then I ended up with a meme wall. So there you go. You guys kind of pushed me over the edge. Still don't watch anime though. That's never going to happen. Just throw that out. Crypto project updates, I covered a bit. We got Render and Rio and VXV. I have a full roadmap, but I'm not going to have time to share it, unfortunately, because Monta's going to die. We had talked about the MMs and the liquidity. We have our SEO project. Our audit's complete. Implementation starts next week. Website optimization is near done. Our scores and everything are much better than they used to be. We're really starting to see some SEO show what it can do. App Store optimization is underway, and also trying to get presence on Reddit, Quora, Wikipedia, Discord, and there we go. Laptop died entirely. So now the laptop was somewhat holding up my phone, which is where I'm using the camera from. Now I have to hold the phone while I scroll. So a good thing is that I'm not chewing gum, because if I was chewing gum and trying to do this, I don't know what would happen. Here we go. Okay, let's see. So any short-term TLC for XCM while we're waiting? Yeah, you're going to see we have a promotion scheduled for June. We wanted to get it done on June 1st, but it's probably going to happen more mid-June. But it's going to be a really cool promotion that we believe is going to really help propel XCM, not just in the month of June, but kind of going into the lull of the summer, and also coming out of the summer into what we feel will be a pretty powerful Q3, Q4. Or end of Q3 into Q4. Now, what I don't know, let's see how, that's how we do it. Okay. Talking tickets, even a small ticket can extend the runway significantly if you're already close to break even. Expect that is very, very true, Jens. And that is, right now our net burn, remember, we do buy back a lot of XCM. So our net burn right now, so I skipped a bunch. Hold on. So I'm sorry, guys. It's going to the smaller screen. That's Hyperliquid 7. We got that. Fundraiser, TLC. Okay, here we go. So let me go back to this one. So what is the outlook for Cadana short term and long term? I say this, I'm going to say the same thing every time. I think Cadana has potential. They cleaned up a lot of the things that I thought were a bit iffy, some from the HR perspective. They still need to focus on a niche. They need to tell people what they're good at and why they're good at that specific thing. Trying to be good at everything and competing with the likes of Ethereum and Solana, etc., is probably not going to be the easiest win for them. So in the short and the long term, that I think they need to do that first. That needs to become hyper clear. People go, oh, Cadana, that's the chain that, and I'm not giving this as the example I think they should go with, but let's just assume they were for logistics, right? They built a platform for logistics. Someone says, you're a logistics company. You should be on Cadana. That's it. Saying finance, because that's where they started, JP Morgan, et cetera, et cetera. Finance is too broad. So what in finance? Everything? No. What exactly? RWA? Tokenized commodities? Tokenized stocks? I think there's a lot, stable coins. Being able to rebalance across multiple chain stable coins, like every stable coin, USDC, USDT, USDG. There's a lot of things they could be doing, I think, that would get them a lot more attention. But that's my perspective, right? So, and I'm not saying those things are easy. Trust me. Paul, let's see, any updates on a U.S. office? No, not currently. Still trying to figure out what the U.S. is going to do in terms of regulation. It does look like, though, that we're headed in somewhat the right direction. We did get Hawaii back on the map, so we can now onboard people from Hawaii. So that's cool. Outside of that, though, no real news there yet. Currently focused on Dubai, then UK, then finalizing MiCA. And within that time frame, hopefully we'll get a bit more clarity on the US and decide what we're going to do there. We do have some talks with some of our shareholders that own a small bank that potentially could be a quick access point for us into the US when it comes to, localized state licensing, or hopefully federal licensing, if that becomes a thing. That's really what we'd like to see. So how is the advertising going? I don't have stats for you this week, or maybe I did. My laptop died. Advertising is going good. Cost of acquisition is still low. The new ads that are being created by our creative team I think are amazing. AI generated video, etc., and audio. They're doing well. I'll try to get some stats for you guys, even in Telegram, but definitely in the next AMA. And again, my apologies to the team. I might have the stats, but unfortunately, my kind of thrown together setup here after a 20-hour plane ride gave a little bit less than to be desired, I guess, is the reality. Hyperliquid tried to start as a DApp chain to pivot into a general one, but Hyper EVM that just launched is super slow and gas fees are high. Yeah, so, well, I did say they need to pivot. I guess they made the wrong pivot. Look, at the end of the day, I think this is a tough business, right? And sometimes not pivoting and waiting because you're too soon is the best idea. Sometimes pivoting immediately because you're not too soon or too late, your idea just isn't going to stick. And it's hard to know in the moment. So, but for now, yeah, I don't see it. I don't see Hyperliquid as that interesting, at least, and I didn't see them as that interesting before either. But hey, yeah, thanks, Jens. And I was commenting on this one before. I'm sorry, I'm on the phone, and I've never. Oh, I maybe done this on the phone before, but it's a way different setup. I can't see myself when I pull up a comment. I gotta put it on the stage. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, you're right. Right now, I was mentioning that we do buy back a lot of XCM, right? So we're buying back, and that comes from our spot revenues. So we're probably still burning about 100K a month, maybe slightly less, probably an average about 100K a month. So yeah, even a, let's say, $500, $600, $700,000 ticket can extend the runway by quite much more than it used to. A $500,000 ticket right now, if it extends 3, 4, 5 months, is significantly more than the month or 3 weeks it would have extended our runway a year and a half or 2 years ago. So it does make a big difference. Though, if you just get kind of trickled in investments, it's not the best either, because you're not able to. You don't know when those funds generally are coming. Even if we do know when they're coming in, you're not really able to capitalize on certain things because the money isn't sitting in treasury. But anyway, I'm on that. I'm on it. I've been on it for a while now, but we finally kind of have been able to come to a head when it comes to how to get this money in the door. And I believe we're going to see more and more coming over the next weeks and months to finally get the round finalized. Any thought on Bybit getting a MiCA visa from Austria after being blacklisted in Europe? Well, I did see that news. I believe they also did Bybit also get a license in New York State? I don't know if that was Bybit or somebody else. Anyway, I think when I look at this, there are definitely things that happen on the regulatory front I wouldn't expect to have happened. However, at the same time, we've seen things like this happen in banking before. I've seen things like this happen in other industries within finance. So it's not necessarily out of the ordinary. Bybit's a big company. I'm sure they shifted around whoever is managing Europe. They probably have more fit and proper people. They're able to show that they realize what they did wrong and what they're going to do and how they're going to protect their end users. They probably have or had or continued to have European users, even if they were attempting to kind of remove them all. And so the regulator, at the end of the day, their job is to protect those users. And so sometimes they kind of have to look the other way and work with the company to do so, especially if that company's of a certain size. So, it's frustrating because sometimes, you try to do everything the right way, and then you have competitors that just don't care and then just come back and maybe not write a check, i.e. like they're paying the regulator. No, but they essentially write a check. They get the lawyers, they get the people, they get the names on the brass plaques that will get them the license they need. So they buy their way back in. And that kind of pisses me off, from many angles, because we've always tried to do everything we can. We've been, pushed around, slapped around, had a lot of things happen, been really difficult for us to grow initially. It's always difficult to grow, but it was really difficult initially because we were trying to do everything that we were supposed to do and no one else was. And people ask me, well, if you went back in time, would you do it differently? And I don't want to do it differently. What I'd like to happen is that doing things the right way actually make you the biggest player in the industry. That's what I'd like to happen. I don't know how far back in time I'd have to go for that to happen, but it is painful. It's painful sometimes to watch those things happen. However, it also gives a bit of hope that regulators are at least starting to understand that this industry isn't going anywhere, and they need to try and do their best to work with companies to do their job. And that still makes our lives easier and still makes the ability for us to grow easier. So, you got to take the good with the bad, I guess. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for sure. Yeah, Paul saying, make sure you hit the like button. I appreciate that. Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for that. Debbie saying, I applaud your integrity. We're going to throw that one up on the stage here. Thanks, Debbie. I know you've been with us for a long time. I think you were even in the ICO all those years ago when I still had a little bit of hair and probably lower blood pressure. I don't know. And definitely didn't have a bald spot on the mustache. So, it's all coming full circle at this point. But thank you a lot, Debbie. I appreciate that. It's not easy. It's never easy. We have a really great team. I'm really happy at what I'm seeing on different levels. We got some more money to raise. That's on me. And I'm going to continue to push wherever I can. I thank everybody for your time today. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for giving me a few minutes at the beginning to try and set up this ridiculous setup I'm working with right here. Next AMA, I'll be back in a studio type setting, so it's all good. Let me just get Paul up here real quick. Are you using Okta for rendering? You know what? That's a great question. I have no idea, actually. I tried it myself personally. I don't know if our team is using it, so I'll have to ask, but that's a great question, Paul. I'd post that one in Telegram if I were you. Let's see if we can get some direct responses. But thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Thanks for supporting us. And for everybody, for guys and gals that have been around since the beginning, ultra big thank you. I would like bow and give you that little hand gesture, but if I do that, my phone's going to fall and then you're going to be looking at my ceiling. So just visualize that in your head. Have a great one. Thanks again, and big things coming. And yeah, appreciate all of you. And XCM to the moon. Absolutely. Cheers.